the commitment to the path, if we don't have that, we don't have the full scope of our spiritual powers. Why don't we be real and be in brave space? Safe space is sameness. Perfection is just going to screw a lot of people. It's going to screw a lot of people out of whatever their inheritance is on this earth if they're waiting for it to be perfect. That's how you become a powerful manifester. Like, you think superhero movies are cool? Like, we have the potential to tap into all of that stuff.
I think there are people who just exude creative liberation, and they have such a devotion to their craft and to their expression that they are willing to make peace with being seen as an alien, as an outcast. And this is precisely what Ayesha embodies. And that's the reason why I wanted to bring her to Enheartened. And my hope for you is that you are able to tune into some of that energy, to unleash your creative power, even in the places where you would have once decided to shut it down just to fit in. As always, I hope this conversation doesn't blow your mind. I hope it blows your heart open. Welcome to Enheartened. Today I am with a woman that I perceive as a creative powerhouse. And by I mean that in all literally, I mean that in all the ways you can think of when you just imagine a creative powerhouse. It just feels like an engine that you can get in touch with, and suddenly you are more able to flow. That's what I've experienced from seeing you work online, express yourself online. And also that's what I perceive in the permission you give to yourself to be free. And it feels like freedom for you is not just a fancy spiritual term that you throw around. It feels like it's a way of living, a way of life. And I've experienced that in from you in even some of the most divided times in America, in the US, in the world, where you haven't, or at the very least, that's the impression that I had, where you haven't prostituted, if I'm going to use that word, your creative freedom and your freedom altogether. So, yeah, I said that before we even started recording. One of the reasons why I felt drawn to you is you seem to carry that frequency of a very individuated creative, where the devotion is to the creative process, to the creator within, and not to the conditions that usually hinder people's creativity. So today I am with Aisha, and we're gonna vibe. We're gonna dive in. Miss Aisha, welcome to Enheartened.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that warm welcome. And I'm excited. Let's go there. Let's explore.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to ask you a little bit of your origin story. I feel like every creator that comes to a place where, there is a sacred moment where, as a creator, you just say, fuck it.
Mhm.
And you just like, I don't care how many people come around to celebrate me, to acknowledge what I create. Just fuck it. I am going to express this thing. So I just want to have a little bit of the origin story
Yeah.
of what shaped you.
Mm, that's a great question. I feel like I can answer that in a few parts very clearly. Like, in my mind, as you were talking, there were these few key moments. So I'm going to go from my childhood to losing my mom to the last 10 years that really gave me my voice online. And so I grew up in a very small town in Tennessee. It was very rural. It was very white. That had its own energetics. I remember being 7 and like begging my mom, could I stay home? 7 or 8, something in that zone. And have you seen the movie E.T.?
Yes.
So I stayed home for a few days and, I like basically put the thermometer to the light bulb. My mom knew that I was not sick, but I think she just gave me permission to move through whatever I was moving through. And I watched ET and I watched this little alienated, this alien try to find its people. And there was something about that that felt really liberating to me at the time because even as a young soul, I was considering these like big ideas like, racism and all of the stuff that's really dividing us right now. I remember that I just drew a very clear line back then. I was like, I feel like I know whose I am, and I might not know the way forward, I might not forget, but it was like I made this very seminal decision when I was really young, spurred on by ET, just watching this, like, whole story unfold, and that's always stuck with me. The fact that my mom knew that I was playing hooky, that she gave me the space to really, like, be this curious child. There's something about that building block, and, I'm talking a lot about my mom because she was such a key part of my rising, I really feel like. But I was always that kid that was, like, outside exploring, super creative, loved to draw and paint. It was like creativity came so natural to me that for a long time, I just slept on it. I was like, "Okay, I gotta put this away. I gotta go do the corporate thing," which I did for a minute. I was always like, art and creativity was always the other 2 feet walking on the path with me. I always felt that. I was always a
Yeah.
little bit different. I was always questioning where a lot of people weren't. In fact, my parents just were so just over me asking these big existential questions. How do we get here? No one's answers really satisfied my curiosity. So it really set me on a journey in my 20s to of discovering myself and discovering the world through a lot of different paths. And what I really learned about being on a lot of different paths and studying a lot of different wisdom traditions is that we have more in common than we don't, and it seems that if they're really truthful, they guide us to the same place within ourselves. And so I was like, oh, I can drop the identification with all of them and just go to that place. And so, kind of back to my mom, that's like a little bit of the backstory. And then my
Mm.
mom was she was a confidant. She always cheered me on. But I was very, very, very shy. And I really feel like something shifted when she passed. She gave me this gift of forward movement. It was almost like you talked about the fuck it moment where I was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna do this. It was
Yeah.
like after she passed, suddenly life was in technicolor. I was like, was I even really living before? There's something that I'm here to do. I've always known that. And that seed that was in me just got watered by her departure. I still feel really connected to my mom, even though she's not embodied. We could talk about that later because I've written a book kind of about that. But yeah, my mom passing about 10 years ago really got me into my messaging. Like I had always wanted to do a blog. I'd always wanted to be online. And it was kind of the beginning of it. I feel like I was watching other people do it and I was like, I don't know. It's something about it so vulnerable. A vlog. Do I do a vlog? Do I like go on YouTube? And I really like something about Instagram with the sharing of stories, something about the medium there and my own creativity really like trigger lit this match. And I was still working other jobs, doing other things, but I was pouring a lot of love and energy into my craft and my creation,
Yeah.
and also like what was behind the beauty that I felt like I was creating. Cause I've always like, have you ever found a picture of yourself when you're a kid and you're like, oh, I was like always this person? I found a picture recently and it was of me getting my like first computer design program. And
Mm.
so I've always felt like this cosmic part of myself just understands the ethernet and can work well in invisible space, if you will. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I just started to share there and the momentum started to happen. And soon people were referring to what I did as my work. I was like, whoa, like it's almost like
I
I
have a
built
work.
yeah, I built this Taj Mahal, and then I was like, "I just built this thing. Now I get to go inhabit it and receive from it." So it's been, and of course, there's bumps in the road. I'm kinda giving you the higher level view, but those are the big things that I really feel like put me on this trajectory. That's why we're even having a conversation because I got
Yeah.
the confidence and the courage and the like, "Okay, fuck it. This is my one life. I have something that I need to say and I need to do, and I'm gonna do it."
Yeah, I love it. I love it so much. And there are some key moments that I kind of want to expand around a little
Okay.
bit more. You gave me a lot of zip files, and I'm
Yeah, I
just like,
did.
"Ooh, that zip file has a lot of a lot of information, a lot of story in there." So I want to go back to the ET moment
Yeah.
where it's like I assume as a young kid you're experiencing already feeling like an ET in the
Mhm.
town you grew up in, like feeling alienated in
Yeah.
some ways. And there you have this presence in your mom that is
Mm.
just almost the creative permission that you had at that time to just explore these aspects of you, these parts of you that are screaming for identity. It's like, who am I? Who am I? And it's so sacred, that thing, that kind of permission giving to just explore who am I without necessarily, at the very least, that's what it feels like. It feels like she didn't necessarily try to imprint upon you
Mm.
who Aisha is. So
Yeah.
I just want you to kind of give us more there.
Yeah.
What is coming up for you there?
Yeah, I feel like you're very intuitive in that she didn't try to necessarily imprint upon me, but I watched my mom and my grandmother and, you know, all the people around me, my dad too, really carry themselves in a way that um I carry myself now. So I had
Mm-hmm.
them as powerful examples, but they still gave me the permission to be who I was. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, I kind of identify as the black sheep, but not in the way that my parents ever tried to shun me from the pack. But just I think a lot different than my family. I move a lot different. They've had to expand their capacity to really accept all the different places I've explored. And I guess because I've been like, you know, an old soul, I would put myself to bed. It's like, what are you even doing? Like, why
Yeah.
are you so responsible? So I think having that gave my parents ease, but that's exactly it. I had the time and space and breath to explore like who I was, what turned me on, what made me happy, and then what in turn gifts I had to share with the world. And so, you know, just being I feel like, you know, I've joked about this. I wrote a Substack, but I was like, I feel like I solved racism for myself very early on.
Yes.
Identity something different. I think I had to work into, you know, loving myself in all facets. But as far as things like that, like a lot of the isms that really keep people trapped, I just saw them pretty much for what they were. And at the
Mm-hmm.
time, there wasn't this big media push to like divide us necessarily. You know, it's gotten more heated every year, but I do think that there was something that was critically changed in me from that movie. The things that were happening around me, which I didn't even mention, were pretty intense. You know, we lived in this town and we had some things done to our house. You know, at the time, it was like Oprah was big. And, you know, when my mom let me stay home for those days, I'd be watching people argue back and forth about race and, you know, people hating people, and I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand it as a kid. I was like, "We don't choose." Well, maybe now I believe we do choose how we come in, but at the time, it was just this innocent exploration of who I am, who I'm here to be, and I think some of those pieces needed to fall into alignment so I could have the message that I have now, which is really about bridge building and
Yeah.
being a harbinger for the way forward.
Yeah. I love there are so many aspects of that that I just want to make more room for
Mm,
because you said something, another zip file that you just threw out there as if, just casually. You solved racism for yourself. And it is a conversation that is very, very close to my heart
mm.
because of, um I still live in the widest place in some one of the widest place in Canada. And
Mm,
I the level of liberation that I'm experiencing in my body
yeah.
is greater than it has ever been before. I'm not
Mm,
saying that people who are operating from fear or potential racism are not there. They're probably out
yeah,
there.
yeah,
But that hasn't been, at the very least in the last 7 to 10 years, a real part of my experience because
yeah,
who I am is not central to, the color of my skin and to what I look like and to even where I come from. I was born and raised in Africa. I just came into the West in when I was 24.
Mm,
So you said you solved racism for yourself. How does someone do that? And I know it's a big conversation. I know
yeah.
and now this what I'm gonna say here. I'm speaking to the listeners. As you're listening to this, remember the name of this podcast, Heartcast, is Enheartened. So I'm inviting you in the best of your ability as you listen to what Aisha is going to share with us. Do the very best you can to stay in your heart or to attempt to remain connected to it. I am very, very viscerally aware of the tension, divisions, racial traumas, and all the different kind of like um the wounding that unfolded from all of this. And at the same time, I really feel like we are in this liminal space where we are learning to evolve beyond all these isms. So, how do you solve racism for yourself?
Really?
How do you even begin to do that?
Yeah. Well, I feel like there are, this ties into the privilege conversation, right? And I really like to look at nature as um a metaphor for how we are to live. And so everything has a different form of privilege. Is the privilege the same? No. The ant has a different privilege than something like the giraffe. The bird has a different privilege. It can soar. The jaguar can go fast. And so I feel like the unique privilege, I'll speak for myself, that I have as a Black woman who's grown up and been through it is that I decided for myself that people are fearful of what they don't understand, right?
Hmm.
And depending on how they're raised, they can act those things out in subtle ways. We all do. We all have biases that we have to be aware of within ourselves. But something for me that felt really clear is that I'm not going to hold that in my spirit. I'm not going to be looking out for who is, and I can tell when I'm around someone and you know, there's something about race in the mix. I could
Yeah.
energetically feel it, right? And then, like, you can be around these young kids and it's not even there. Sure, they may be curious about my hair, they may have a curiosity, but I don't feel that energy. And I think just with me not being so overly identified with it, I met people, places, and things that were willing to challenge their own biases. I'm not sitting here saying none of that was real. It
Yeah.
is very real. It's a part of our history, it's a part of our DNA, and it's a part of um, we're in a time where the new human is being born, right?
Yes.
Actually coming in through these new mothers, but also the idea that our DNA is supposed to shift and change and move is a paradigm that I believe in. And so, I think something just big for me happened there. I really felt like I know whose I am. And this is something that's way beyond these costumes that we're wearing. I did feel like I understood that as a child. Maybe I didn't have the language yet, but there was
Yeah.
something inside me that was awake and aware to that. And it's been interesting to watch this conversation happen around privilege and like white guilt and the things that people held on to. Because I really look at those movements and I just ask myself a few just like simple questions. Did they bring us any closer to each other? No,
Yeah.
in fact, they like pushed us away and people are afraid to have conversations. They're afraid to say the wrong thing. And so it's like this, it's so simple. It's like the same thing with your spirituality. If you're practicing, but you're super judgmental, no one can hang with you, you're too spiritual, then I'm not sure what's happening. Like, are we
Too
stoking our
spiritual.
egos? Yeah. Are we stoking our egos? Are we actually moving into wholeness, like you said, individuation? And when we're that way, I at least have started to understand that it's all one field, like when it's just the same thing with manifestation. So I know I'm giving a lot of like zip files or ideas because I think people really need to remove themselves from the trigger and the sting of it and start to look at it from different facets. But like your okay, so when you're manifesting, your body can't tell the difference between what you're imagining and what's really happening. That's part of the amazing vehicle of this thing. And so when we're hating on someone, when we're holding something against someone, it doesn't know where to send that to
Yeah.
necessarily, like, our body is the one that's feeling it, and so, if our body's feeling it and if our bodies are magnetic for experiences, it's like Ram Dass said, like, the police and the people breaking the law have a special, like they're just gonna keep running into each other, they have a special energetic, they have a special thing that they need to work out, and so, when I have met upon that in my life, if anything, it's just liberated me more and it's put me around people who, like, I don't know, aren't gonna I don't need to be babied. There's some things that we need to grow out of that were band-aids that actually just held us back when we're
Yeah.
smart and we're brilliant and we have ingenuity and all of those things. So, did I solve it for everyone? No, but I came to a point where I was like, I think people are mainly good, and I think people are mainly trying to do better than other people did, and of course, there's people that have doubled down on the hate, but I don't know them, I don't feel them. I feel mostly the world that's trying to divide us, and then I watch, like, interviews with people who go into the places that are supposed to be the most racist places in the world, and they're like, "No. What do you" that's the news. This is not our day-to-day reality in Mississippi.
Yes.
This is not our day-to-day reality. So that's just,
Well, I am so appreciative of that, and what I love is, to anyone listening to this, it is just an invitation to embrace what it feels like to be a bridge. And I have a series of questions around, what has been your journey of being a bridge? Because on one end, I have a sense that in a collective where there's a lot of divisions and where people are very much, or can be very much, attached to just camping in their sides,
yeah.
and what tends to be attacked are bridges. Meaning,
Mm,
if I am on my side and I want to have nothing to do with that other side, I got to shut down the bridge because I don't want anybody to come from that side to cross over here. What I'm
yes.
saying is, you carry this frequency of a bridge.
Mm.
And I wonder, by choosing to hold onto that, have you in your own way sometimes experienced some rocks being thrown at the bridge and being like, I'm not sure we kind of need or even want this bridge? Who is this lady who is saying that she solved racism for herself? Like,
Right.
maybe we need to educate her a little bit. Maybe she doesn't know a little bit about her story and all of
Uh-huh.
that. So what
Uh-huh.
comes up for you at that level?
Yeah. Well, I'm in the great uneducation of all things, and so, sure, I've definitely had people throw stones. I've had friends that felt really challenged by me a few years ago, even like a few years ago, who now are like deeper into their own contemplations and letting go of some of these ideologies that keep us divided on the inside. If you're not
Yeah.
divided on the inside, you have a lot more space to accept people. And so I really have started to view this journey as me with me. Like this person is a mirror. This idea is a mirror. They're all a mirror for me to project my consciousness onto and feel what's really going on with me. So, yeah, I mean, there's times when I've spoken up when wars have broken out and they're like, we don't need this love conversation. What's that even about? Get away, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's nice to feel fortified enough to the point where sometimes I get a little thrown off by it, but I really feel like I'm here to talk about the soul's journey and it's
Hmm.
beyond a lot of those identifications. And so, kind of being more clear about the place that I'm talking about has helped me. It's like, well, it's kind of like figuring out who your niche is. Who am I talking to and what am I talking about? Talking about mysticism. I'm talking about something that connects us beyond all the things that try to separate us. And that's the true note that I'm just going to keep singing. And it feels like more and more people are open to that frequency. And, you know, it's so interesting, like being a bridge and then holding space for a lot of community and hearing some of the still ideologies that we're bringing in and we're chewing on, and it's keeping us in that fight or flight, us versus them. And so, you know, it's a gentle recalibration. We all have these ideas that really split us and don't let us come into wholeness. And that's where we find eternity. That's where we find peace. That's where we find healing. It's so much beyond the, I don't know, just the fodder of today. It's like the
Mm.
message I have, I feel is very timeless. And at the same time, I have strong opinions and I have the way that I choose to live my life. And nobody can tell me different until they can. It's like, I have that, but I don't expect other people to adhere to that. And I don't take a mark off their, you know, righteousness board if they
Oh, their
don't.
goodness.
You know? Yeah, exactly. You know, it maybe we don't vibe and maybe there's like an energy towards me, but I really try to, you know, to the best of my ability, hold a space that is open for all. If you're a
Yeah.
human being, you're a soul, there's something ineffable that wants to be expressed about you that's beyond skin color, race, pronouns, identifications. All that stuff can keep you on the surface
Hmm.
of this reality. And in order to really like get the keys, you got to like let some of that stuff go.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Now, this alien thing, I feel like we need to say more about it because
Okay.
there are these main fears that I would say people deal with: humiliation, alienation, some of them loss, persecution, other fears as well. But I've noticed that for many creative, the fear of being alienated for pursuing what their hearts truly desire is a very strong one. So at that age, you're really young, you see ET, it illuminates something inside of you, and you have more permission to explore, sorry, who you really are. I feel like you went to being afraid of alienation to embracing being an alien in your own
Mm,
way. And
yeah.
also to kind of exploring what is true belonging, and is true belonging because the fear of alienation is anchored on like a strong need and desire. I truly want to belong, which is a core need that we have. But I
Mhm.
really feel like uh, maybe even without knowing what you were doing, very early you started anchoring within your psyche, within your body, that if I don't belong to myself, I don't belong anywhere, type thing.
Mhm.
And I just want to have a sense of like what comes up for you around it, because I feel like this moment when you're really young and exploring, the ET in you says, I don't know, it informs more how you really create.
Mhm.
Yeah, what comes up for you around that?
I love that. You know, the opposite actually happened.
Hmm.
It it helped me find my people even back then, you know, and I feel like obviously my expression has become more and more full. It's like we bloom over time into the like truthfulness and soulfulness. Like that's why something that's old and was built by hand, like you can feel it. And like all this IKEA stuff, I got it. It, you know, it doesn't really carry a spirit. So there is something so innate within us. This is an understanding I have now that maybe I just had an inkling of then, but it's like we literally come in knowing that we're a part of a unified field, that we are like the mycelium. And so that deep desire to belong, we see it everywhere. We see it in tribes, we see it in schools. You know, most animals run with something, you know,
Yeah.
or they take innate direction from whatever that is, and you know they move like the ants. Like we're all in little pods together, right? And so that's the biggest tool of pulling us apart, is making us feel like we don't belong or we're going to get cast out or we're a joke. Like that's the thing they use over and over again: discredit you, make you feel like you've got no one. But you know, your weirdos are out there. And
Yeah.
the more that you are you, the more you can find people where no translator is needed. And to me,
Yes.
that's such a gift. Like, it's fine. I feel like I translate a lot to be a bridge, and I kind of enjoy taking some of these concepts and making them palatable for someone who's on whatever part of their journey. But yeah, I think it just helped me find my people more, who could be around me. And obviously the expression has gotten bigger and deeper, but I've really found that, like, the thing I get told the most is like, actually, thank you for being a middle ground. Thank you for being a place where a lot of voices can be. And of course, there's stone throwers. There's always going to be stone throwers, but the stone throwers are really just throwing stones at themselves. I'm just like the clear mirror for them to be able to do that. And if I can remember that, if I can not take it personally, it's helpful. But yeah, I mean, that's the deep innate thing that we do want to feel, is that we belong. But that belonging is really sourced from an inner sense, right? And when
Yeah.
we're in that, then we can happen upon our people and our places and where we're supposed to go, and those hidden allies come forth. And that's always been, my journey. I've really like followed my heart pretty hardcore. My head was there. I was
Yeah.
kind of a level-headed person, but I really was like, okay, like I need to be with people, places, and things that fuel this wild creativity that wants to live in me. And it's kind of the untamed, feral, instinctual part of ourselves that we're like, everything's about rewilding, right? We're rewilding, we're slowing down, we're tapping into these parts of ourselves that we lost through the hustle. And, that's really all I'm talking about. It's like
Yeah.
the soul sickness and how we go into ourselves and receive the honey, the nectar, the cure.
Yeah. And you said something about following your heart hardcore. What are a few attributes? What kind of crazy is needed? In a world that was built on fragmentation, overly compartmentalized, analytical to a certain degree, what kind of
Yeah.
crazy or maybe attributes it takes to really
Well,
be a
yeah.
devotee of the heart?
Well, they say the longest journey is from the head to the heart, and
Hmm.
actually the heart is really wants to give instruction to the head. And so I think you have to be willing to listen to things that feel a little illogical. Like, okay, like s- over there feels safe, but my intuition is telling me to go over here. So am I really going to listen to that? And every time I do, a door opens, I meet someone, something happens when it's not like I don't let go of the wheel, but I like go with the wheel. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
actually, I thought I was going over here, but something's telling me to go this way. And so yeah, I think it takes an ability to, if we're like so overly logical, or we think that intelligence is our mind is the peak, the pinnacle, then we just miss out on a lot of like winks and nods. And synchronicity requires the ability to, because you won't even see it if you're too logical. You'll be like, that thing happened, but I'm going to explain it away. Like, you need a bit of like whimsy and magic and childlike. Like, you just need to tap into you need to watch kids move, and you need to remember how you moved when you were a kid in order to tap into a certain flow that's available to us. But yeah, you have to be okay with being illogical and paradoxical. I think that's hard for people to like find the but and the and almost everything, and to be like the jester and the comic about some of the things that we're so overly serious about. I think that's laughter. It's just the biggest antidote right now. I'm like, we are way I can be serious. Like, I can be very scorpionic. I can be so serious for days, and then I'm like, what? Lighten up.
Yeah.
Lighten up. This is so weird. No one knows how we got here. We're all pretending like we know. Like, this is just we might be on a big spinning like, this is so improbable yet probable. Like,
Yeah.
just find the humor in all of it.
I love that. And you mentioned this massive paradoxes. Um, and I really feel like evolving is to get better at holding the full range of contradictions and paradoxes within yourself. So I'm curious, maybe one or two of the, you know, paradoxical aspects of you that,
Mm,
instead of letting one run the show against the other, you're just like bringing all of them closer. Or
yeah.
maybe I'm gonna leave it like a blank slate. What are some of the paradoxes you have within yourself that when people look at you, they wouldn't even suspect
Mm.
are there?
Um, I don't want to deal with people, and I love people. For a while, I thought AI was coming here. I was in the fear. I was like, oh, it's going to take everything over. And it's like, what if it's here to evolve us out of like certain ideas? So, like, I went from my man just was like, I have whiplash with this whole AI thing because I was like, take it away. I don't want to see it. And there's a line that I've drawn. I like it for like elevating my creativity and productivity. Do I want a robot driving my car? I don't think so. Who knows? Who
Mm,
knows in a few years? But like, so being able to change your mind is also a part of paradox to me. It's like the cousin of paradox. It's like I used to be staunchly vegetarian, and then my body was asking for animal protein. And instead of just being like, nope, this is who I am, I went this way. And so Scorpios go through a lot of death and rebirths. It's like
mhm,
just a part of life. And so when people are flailing in the death, like I can be there with them because I've gone through so many changes in my life, lost so many people, so many things that I love and adore. So grief and death is a big part of my work. But yeah, I feel like I hold a lot of paradox, and I really look at it as part of our multidimensional, multifaceted reality that we get to be not just one thing. You don't get to pigeonhole me. We're not one trick ponies. We really came here to be like even just like feeling emotions, we've
yeah.
we've decided that sunshininess is the pinnacle, and we've all met people who you see them like this and inside they're like something is going on. So even just like holding space in myself for all the different, even jealousy, even
Mhm,
hate, even like all that stuff can be alchemized into the deepest medicine that we can hold, but not if we're afraid of it. If we're afraid of it and we don't interact with it, that's when it becomes the monster that takes over and creates wars and wars and wars and wars. It's like, I think Gabor Mate, popularized like if we avoid conflict is how we create wars. So
yeah.
going into your own inner weather, your own inner conflict, and bringing wholeness, saying it's okay, you can be here. You could hate for a minute. Like, I love a good, couple second, whatever, and then just move on.
Yeah.
So, not making myself wrong, not making other people wrong, but really learning how to fluidly move, and we can get stuck in anger. It can corrode. It's like a battery. It can become corrosive or it can become righteous, and we can learn
Mhm,
how to wield it. But, it takes like a bit of agility to move through a day and be with all of the different visitors that come that are emotions.
yeah. I love all of this, and especially one that I want us to get back to, AI,
Mm,
especially for the creative.
yeah.
That I want to get back to that, but before it, I keep having this thought of getting back to your mom for a second. I know it's a
Mhm.
very tender relationship in your life, especially since she's passed. But when you were talking about her, it felt like she played more than just the role of mother for you. Like the baseline role of mother, which is, well, I'm gonna make sure that you're taken care of, your kind of human needs are met, and all of that. I'm gonna be there when you cry, and I don't know, just like the baseline expectations that we may have of a mother. It felt like there was more of some sort of soul mothering to a certain
Mm,
degree, kind of like holding space for you to engage your soul type
mm,
energy, which is very rare for many of us, you
yeah,
know. So I would love for you to say more about it because I feel like, of course, this is my external perception, but when you were talking about that, it just felt like she carried that frequency of like, I'm gonna hold space too for you to engage your soul. Can you
yeah,
say more about it, or is
yeah.
it your experience?
Well, My mom was definitely multifaceted. She grew up very like Seventh-day Adventist Christian, and she was challenged by a lot of the things that I would do if I participated in a medicine ceremony, if I went to a place where I had to be quiet. She was like, "Are you in a cult? Are they not letting you get out of there?" So she had her own she came in with her own stuff. So a quote I heard recently that I want to throw into the mix is by Buckminster Fuller. Bucky, he was one of these amazing inventor futurists, was really challenging a lot about the educational system, roles in society. Anyway, and he said that geniuses are people that had good mothers. And I know some of us have had varied experiences with our mom. That's why when we're dating, we're like, oh, the father wound, the mother wound, everything's coming up because the way that we watch our parents move is often what we replicate. It feels like love, even if it's far from it. So, my parents were not perfect.
Hmm.
But my mom really, she was a show up mom. She was a show up mom despite all the things that she was working on, her own self worth, her own self esteem, taking care of her body right. So, we had tensions, normal tensions, but we talked every day, even if we annoyed each other. So we definitely had a special relationship. But I think it was like, you know, I believe often we come back. I believe in sort of reincarnation. The energy doesn't die, it just transforms. And it feels like, especially now, I feel like I can say this with a bit more certainty that we've traveled together for a long time. We've been a part of each other's soul evolution. And so, me picking my family to live with, and there's a lot of dark chapters. My brothers really struggled, really put our family through a lot, in and out of it being incarcerated, in and out of drug rehab. So it wasn't like so perfect,
Yeah.
but there was a deep richness that I could find through all of the challenges that came through being family with the people that I chose. And my mom, I want to show you a picture of my mom and dad at the end. It's like the one thing I would take if anything was burning. I'd be like, let me get that and let me get out. But yeah, my mom has really become this. I just could see her more clearly when she was not embodied, which is really
Yeah.
unfortunate. It's like everything that she gave, she was definitely a ride or die spirit. So she was a big part of my evolution. Like to know me is to know my mom. She
Yeah.
was like cool and could go there, could conversate, was loving, cooked a mean macaroni and cheese. I don't know how to do that as great as she did, but and I don't know if I lost the thread, but my mom definitely has played a big part in my soul awakening. And there's so many like deja vu moments. Like, for one, when she was sick, I was navigating this hospital like I had known it. And anyone who's been in an American hospital, it's like all these cold corridors. To me, it's like so the opposite of healing. And one of the things that her passing gave me was like real faith in a system outside of that system.
Yeah.
Like, if I have a broken bone, please take me there. If there's anything else going on, I need to go into the spiritual, into the energetics, into what I'm eating, what I'm feeding myself, and really deal with it. And, that has been my path since. I have a big distrust, and I think we're all seeing that now. It's all monetized. A bag of saline, which is just water and salt, is several like we're just being taken advantage of in those spaces. And so now when I talk to a healing practitioner, if they don't think the body is a miracle, if they don't speak to me in a certain way, I'm like, I'm not in the right place. I'm
Yeah.
not in the right place for my healing. So I've been able to align with these like fucking radical badass healers who are using other modalities to heal.
Yeah. You said something about your mom though. It's like somehow there was a shift that happened, and I want to believe that there is more to the shift than just her passing. And you said you were able to see her more clearly. Something shifted within you, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you've ever I'm not questioned it. What was it, the thing, or the perspective, or the way of seeing the world, or maybe it was just the grief that you surrendered to. What would you
Yeah.
say was the kind of like inner shift that allowed you to embrace a different way of
Yeah.
appreciating that relationship?
So one of the things that my mom does is she talks to me through songs because I
Yes.
grew up in a very musical space. That's what the book The New Romantics is about. But I heard the song in my head, I believe it's Joni Mitchell, and it's don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone. And all that really is semi sleepwalking through life, right? It's
Mhm.
like I think we're all afraid of truly becoming alive, maybe because we think we'll be in this, like, ecstatic state that we can't function in. I don't know what it is, but we've all had the experience of, like, "Oh, I didn't, like, appreciate even that meal fully. I was, like, over here thinking about something else while I'm eating this delicious meal. I'm not fully present with it." And part of, like, spiritual practice is, like, pulling your, energy back from all these places that you've left it. That's how you become a powerful manifester. Like, I always think about myself as many things, but sometimes it's just as simple as like, okay, if this is if my body is like a vessel and the vessel has a lot of leaks in it because I'm over here thinking about that, or I'm mad at this person and I haven't resolved it within myself, then energy is going there. And if I can learn to bring that energy back through breath, through meditation, through devotion, this is one of the things I'm really passionate about is the commitment to the path. If we don't have that, we don't have the full scope of our spiritual powers. And they're like, you think superhero movies are cool? Like we have the potential to tap into all of that stuff. And so, that's been my practice too, is like, where is my power in this moment? And I think, I was young, I was scattered here and there, it's like, oh, mom, like it's so annoying. You're calling me every day. And what do you
Yeah.
want? And can't you just boundaries? And again, all those things are important. But
Yeah.
now, because she's not here, I look at people just be burnt up about trivial things with their mother. It's like, your mom loved you. She did the best she could. She's trying to show up. And there's some people that their moms weren't available for that. They were lost in addiction, or they were choosing men over you, or, whatever our mothers did, as imperfect as they were, they're the avenue for a soul to come here. And so there's a special conversation that you're going to be in with whoever that vessel was for you. And for me and my mom, I just realized, wow, like the pinnacle of love and support, and just a woman in her process. And
Yeah.
for better or for worse, it played out for her the way it did. And also learning lessons. It's like part of the gift that sometimes people give us is what not to do and
Yeah.
how not to be. And I got that through her as well.
Yeah.
As much as I did, like, this is this is how a queen holds herself. This is how I walk through the world with dignity and with integrity. This is how I face challenges. She was a cool woman.
Yeah. And it feels like it has informed tremendously as well how you walk the world. And yeah, that's a beautiful gift. So I just
Mm,
wanted to create ample space for that connection to be honored. And it just kept coming up and coming up. So
yeah.
now
Thank you.
what I want to lean into, you're welcome. What I want to lean into is you mentioned the devotion. And I think it's devotion to the path and also devotion to soul. And what I sometimes witness is so many artists, so many creatives,
Mhm.
they have this compelling desire to bring their creativity out there to the world. And I feel like they might not fully understand at times, well, that's my impression, that it requires more than just a devotion to the practice, which is whatever your practice is, whether it's dancing, painting, or whatever, but a devotion to soul or a
Mhm.
devotion to the path itself. And I want to basically ask you, how much is it crucial for a creative, for an artist, to have that devotion to soul central in the
Yeah.
way they approach the creative process or what they put
Mm.
out there to the world?
Yeah. It's what separates people who think about an idea their whole life, and I mean, that's obvious, the ones who do it, but, it's the key. It's really the key that opens the door, all the doors. And, part of me is very obsessive as a Scorpio. Like when I was little, I didn't just make one collage, I made 1,000. And then it was hard for me to get rid of them. And it does feel like there is something built into me that's like, okay, if we're going to do it, let's really do it. And there's definitely times for pause. There's times to be in the desert of your life. But a saying I really love is pray with your feet moving. So, how do we it's like we can pathologize everything, we can talk about everything for so long, but how can your creation be the answer to what hurts instead of like talking about it more? And I found that too, that people, that the one key that's missing is not even like, okay, I gotta tame my inner trickster, I gotta tame the inner critic. No, you just have to keep meeting it every single day within your practice. And to me, the soul game can be lived through whatever it is you're here to do. If you love being on the earth, if you love having your hands in the dirt, but you don't find them there enough, there's going to be a part of you that shrivels up, that pulls back. There's going to be a life essence that could be there with you. But, we really have to be in deep devotion. And so, devotion was the word that I defaulted to. I was like, take discipline away. It's a word that I don't like. I get it away. But now I'm like, it's both sides of the coin. The feminine
Hmm.
really is it's her why. It's what's pulling her forward. It's like the feminine part of devotion, and then the masculine, the structure is about the discipline, because sometimes you're not going to feel like it. You know that it's good for you to get outside and go on a walk, but you're not going to feel like it until you're in it and you're doing it. And I've talked to my friends about this. And, there's been times where I've been totally down and out and not in my practices. But it's like the practices are what's going to make you feel better. You just have to like get over the hump of whatever it is in your mind that's keeping you stuck and like in homeostasis instead of like in movement. It's like nature is always moving, it's always churning. It's always like, even if there's a log that looks dead, inside of it there's a world of movement and action happening. And so we're these little microcosms that very much operate the same way. If you don't use it, you lose it. Your life and your body and everything around you is like, okay, she doesn't want to walk up the stairs anymore because she's not going to challenge herself to do it. So we're just going to kind of atrophy these certain muscles. And I use that as an example because I've been on this health journey where pain was a daily visitor for many years, like a pain in my knee. And I've learned what, the knee joints are about moving forward. It's also about like where we need to bow in reverence, and then where we need to stand up and say, I'm standing up for myself. And so,
Yeah.
you know, instead of being like, oh, I'm going to back away from the pain and I'm going to make my life smaller, it's like the pain is actually an invitation to move into it and see what's there. So I kind of lost the thread, but
That's okay. That's great. And there are many things that came up there. First, there's um one of the themes that was just present is the multidimensionality of who you are. Because if I remember it well, you um y- over the last few, I don't know, several months ago, if I remember well, you opened an, this is a word that I have a hard time pronouncing.
mm,
Apothecary? Is it how you
yeah.
pronounce it? Yeah.
Mhm.
And so it just feels like your devotion to the path is like in all dimensions of your beingness,
Mm,
meaning
yeah,
in your physicality, vitality, also the actual kind of like connection with your inner divinity, and how you give yourself permission to express it through your creations, through what you're putting out there. So it's like a they often have this cliche saying the way you do one thing is the way you do
yeah,
everything. And it just feels like you have devoted yourself to that holistic path.
mhm,
And your art is just a component of that holistic path. I'm not sure if you want to say more on that,
yeah.
but that's also one thing that I saw within you that was very compelling. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I definitely am very multi-passionate and I'm learning how to be with those aspects of self because there's like these like savants and all they ever do is like play the piano. And there's something about that that is so intriguing to me because I am so like, ooh, I want to dabble over here and I want to learn how to do this. And for a while I thought it was a bad thing, but I think that's why I've been able to build so many little bridges and look for commonality with people. But yeah, I'm sitting in my office and it's to me, it's like we need to be in places that feel really creatively stimulating because
Yeah.
we're kind of indoctrinated into these like ugly spaces. But then you'll go to like a country that values beauty and things are handmade, they take time, and there's something that like awakens within you. And so to be able to be around herbs, be around like this I mean, if I like, I feel like a collage. I feel like I'm a little bit of every moment that's happened to me. So to like pick a style, pick one aesthetic, pick one type of like, that just feels so boring. It's like we're all kind of patchworks and something happens in our life when we allow ourselves to be as paradoxically weird and to like, you know, have little things around us that we love and I think something that has become clear as I'm in this like legacy making part of my life, I don't know if it's just my age, like, we go through these 7-year stages where there's new things that come online with us. And as I've been thinking about, kind of the future for really
Hmm.
the first time, I think like, okay, how do I mobilize? And a lot of my creations now are about that mobilizing of all these disparate parts and finding an umbrella. And for me, that's been a school that I call humanities that can actually house all the weirdness. It's like, oh, I can do retreats. I can do classes from grief to like algorithm alchemy, which is my social media course. And it all has a home to live that resides in it beyond me in this form. So yeah, I think if you're multi-passionate, it's not a bad thing. Like what I'm doing now takes a tiny little aspect of every weird job that I've had from working at a sign shop to being in marketing for a law firm to being a camp counselor. Like all of these things are a part of the gift that I'm offering to life, you know?
Yeah. And you mentioned something there. It's like you mentioned the savant that only focuses on one thing, which would be, for example, playing piano. But we also have the other savant that was a mathematician, a physician,
Yeah.
a musician, and
Mhm.
back then you would say this person has ADD or ADHD. Um,
Mm,
but something about your frequency is really unboxable type thing. It's like I I don't want to be put in some sort of a box.
uh,
And yeah, I just want to say there's also that beautiful example of the multi-passionate soul that just came here to explore all the different flavors of beauty that life
right?
has to offer. So that's really awesome. Now I want
Yeah.
to get into more of your work, more of the new romantics, the you know, and also humanities. And at the same time, I would love to you to speak a little bit to the creative that is just in that space of like feeling freaking stuck
Yeah.
and not knowing how to move from that place. What would you say to
Yeah.
one person that is there and they
Mm,
know there is so much fire that wants to be expressed, and maybe I don't trust the fire. Maybe I don't know how to express it. Maybe I am too scared to be bruised by the comments of
yeah.
random people on the internet. It's just like I feel stuck. I don't know where to start.
Yeah. That's a
Help
great
me.
question, and it's a thing I talk about a lot, with my students right now, the people that are in my courses and classes, and what I really try to model is the antidote to unstuckness is motion. So it's
Hmm.
like if stuckness were a picture, it'd be someone sitting in a chair, just, like, stuck to the chair, and you're like, "Okay, well, the only way you're gonna get unstuck is if you make a little motion, you take a little step, you make bad art before you make great art, you make cringe posts before you make great posts. So just getting people Acclimated in their nervous system to be seen or to be in their art, even if no one sees it in the beginning. It's like, okay, have you actually picked up a pen if you want to be a writer? Have you sat down? Do you do morning pages? I really encourage people to pair like actual physical movement. I think it's such a, now that we're all in the soma of the body, we're realizing we're not just the mind. Like our body is holding a lot of this density, a lot of this weight. It's like before every class, we actually shake it up. We do things
Yeah.
to like get into the body, and we work with energetics first and then we get into the practices. So, there is time to sort of like discuss what's happening or give space to certain voices within. But eventually, we all have to pick up the tool that we say we want to do, and we have to let our why, our big why, not just like, oh, I want to make some money and I want to, maybe make an impact. It's like, if this is part of what your soul came here to do, then that why has to be the carrot that's dangling that gets you to move from apathy, inaction, being in your mind too much, analysis paralysis, into action. And one of the things I say to people, especially who are on their journey of sharing their work online, which we both do, it's created such a radical shift in my life, is that I literally like tiptoed into the frame. I didn't come on like, bam, here I am. I got
Yeah.
something to say. Like for a while, people were like, you need to post more pictures of yourself and interact more because it's all about other people's ideas or what you've created and crafted. And so that's the part that I really have watched myself blossom and bloom in, is like just tiptoeing into the frame. At first it was just my voice, and then it was like my voice and my likeness. And I was like, oh, it's actually easy being on camera in my own energy. Like I don't really think about it. I don't do multiple takes. I just kind of like let it flow. And so it's like if you want to be a bodybuilder, day one, you're not going to look or feel like a bodybuilder. You're going to
Yeah.
feel like whatever the shape of your body is now. And so, like, letting that clay be formed over time and like looking at yourself as this amazing, capable, miraculous biological entity that's just going to keep blooming, is important. But in the beginning, it's a weird haircut. You're going to feel awkward, like, ooh, what am I doing? Who's even listening? In the beginning of it was the girlfriend manifesto for like 6 years, and then I changed it to my name. But at first, no one was there. Like, no one was listening.
Yeah.
That can't stop you. You have to keep putting in the work. It's like a energetic piggy bank is what I tell my peeps. It's like it's a signal that you continue to strengthen. And if you stop, and I'm not advocating for like being online all the time, but you do, like, if that's part of what is going to amplify your message or get your word out there, then that's a place that you need to find good boundaries with and return to over and over again to
Yeah.
offer your gifts. So for me, it was just like, when I was building my platform, people were like, "How'd you get so many people here?" Because in the beginning, it was like, "Ooh, 10,000 is a big number," you know, and it's definitely not about the numbers. We can come back to that. That is not algorithm alchemy. Is all about your signal. You can have impact, livelihood with 100 people on your page. It's about, to me, it's not about not like bowing down to trends, but just remaining in what your message is and knowing that it's going to reach the right people and that it will grow. Of course,
Yeah.
there's strategy involved, but there's a lot of it's just heart. It's like 80 heart, 20 strategy for me. So it's like, let's nail the devotional piece, which happens through the heart, and then we can fine tune the structures, because it's all like, I just picture it as like a highway. And if people can find your message and they can find out how to interact with you, if the highway's cleared from
Yes.
blockages, it's clear how people get to you and they know a little bit about what you do, then you will get those knocks, you will get
Y-
those nods, and the energy it'll be reciprocal.
Yeah. I have a sense that this creative, you mentioned strategy, and what comes up for me is letting the heart be central would actually be the strategy in chief, and all other strategies are just amplifying
That's right.
that. And I want to have your take on like making peace with being seen as cringe, or making peace with being seen as maybe a fool.
Yeah.
I feel like you have a lot of the kind of like, I don't want to use the word well, let me use the word full, but divine, divine full or sacred gesture if you want. But that part
Yeah.
of you that can just, and you displayed a little bit of that even through our conversation. There are moments
Mm.
where you're just like, hey, you're taking yourself too seriously right here. It's
Yeah.
like, can we just like go back to the fun and
Yeah.
the playfulness and all of that?
Exactly.
And I wonder how, like, I've had very many moments in my journey where I had to call myself out
Hmm.
and to be like, bro, who the fuck do you think you are? That you cannot slip up publicly. But it's not
Yeah.
like the who the fuck do you think you are as a critic who is telling you, shut the fuck up. It's this voice that is telling you, hey, you know what? Chill out a little bit.
Yeah.
Put something out there just for the sake of playfulness and fun. Say
Yeah.
something that is a little bit off brand just for the sake of exploring a different facet of who you are.
Right.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so I want to have your take on that. It's like it's more than just creativity for the sake of like being niched or into one thing, but it's also creative liberation. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I like playing with the trickster. I think I came in with a little bit of that, but I really think about um we're all going to die, y'all, and being cringe is not fatal. It actually like to me it can like seat you deeper into your throne, if you can kind of like laugh at yourself, if you can find levity when you feel cringe. I mean, there's been times where I was building my capacity for the cringe, where I would like say something that I thought was provocative and I'd want to immediately take it down. I literally would throw my phone. I would throw it and then I would just walk out the building and go be with something that's real in the tangible sense. Not that that's not real, but I would go outside, I would touch the earth, I would touch my body, I would be like, we're gonna get through this, you know? There's something about, again, it's growing the capacity. And maybe this is a little cliche and there's things I could don't like about it, but what doesn't kill you, it just makes you stronger. And
Hmm.
definitely saying something cringe, like, looking back on the early videos I made, even just the tone of my voice, like, I feel like I've come into this richness. I can listen to people's voices and get so much we all can get so much information, but looking back on those videos, it is cringe, and there's a few that I have hidden. I'm like, "No, ain't nobody gonna see that." But I've left a lot of it up just as proof that, like, it's like a fine wine, it just gets better over time. So if, in the beginning, it probably is going to feel perfection is just gonna screw a lot of people. It's gonna screw a lot of people out of their whatever their inheritance is on this earth if they're waiting for it to be perfect. And I think that's just a trick of the mind. It's like you open one like, it's the endless boxes and doors in your mind when your body can really handle so much more than you think. Like, you can move through those feelings of cringe. You can even liberate them to receive more power in your body. So it's like, remember when the big thing was like trigger warning?
Yeah.
Everybody was just like, even when people would talk to you, like in the spirituality, they'd be like, they would just like pick their words so carefully. They wouldn't be like, have a good day. Well, have a good day if that's what you need. And they would just like over explain stuff. And it was like lumpy, gross oatmeal. And we were all being so careful. And then I think something happened where we're like, okay, I'm just going to speak freely, less trigger warnings because our triggers belong to us. And they're actually little pockets of power that we often like ferociously guard. But like
Yeah.
when a trigger comes up for me, I'm like, okay, energy that wants to be liberated. And like the
Hmm.
bigger the trigger, the bigger the gift. If I can like not blame someone else and like come into my body and come into my spirit and see like what is moving through me. So yeah, I think something's shifting just within us where like, okay, that actually wasn't the way to be together, to try not to offend each other or step on each other's toes. Why don't we be real and be in brave space? Like, the safe space is sameness. And that's why so often those organizations that are centered around justice become zealots and they don't let other people in their space. So it's like, oh, that actually didn't work. For me, it's just so simple. It's like, okay, that approach didn't work. How do we come into the messy middle, the paradoxical, the weird, and love each other in that space? And that space, you're not looking for what makes you different. You're looking for what makes you the same. And that's how, when they're like, don't try to explain yourself to someone who's trying to beat you in an argument because they don't want to connect. They want to be right.
Yeah,
And it's like, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy on this planet? You pick.
yeah. Mic drop. I love that. There's so
Yeah.
much juiciness in there. Um, the new romantics. I want to say something about first the book. When I saw the title, because my admin case, she sent me the title, and I wanted to have the book arrive here before this conversation, but it
Uh-huh.
didn't.
Yeah.
So I was reading the synopsis and everything about it, and I just wanna the title. Where did you come up with that? The
Mhm.
New Romantics.
Yeah.
It feels so
No.
unique in the title first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the da da da, the girlfriend manifesto, the
Yes.
Society of Wild Hearts. For some reason that resonates with me, but I don't really know where it came from. It just dropped into my spirit similar to how other things do. And I started kind of researching that term and it's connected to a certain period of music in Europe, this like kind of punk new wave. And thought that was interesting, but what I really meant by it was the energy of the muse. The new romantics are all about the Renaissance and how we move from one age to another
Yeah.
through the arts. For me, divination is part of the arts. And so, yeah, the title just dropped it. It felt a bit like a band and music, which, we've spoken a little bit about music. It's such a big part of how I grew up. It's one of those things like looking back where I'm like, I don't think I'd be alive on this planet. I might have ejected myself if I didn't have certain things. Indian food, men with beards, um, music, music. So,
Yeah.
like, music connects us, right? It connects us beyond all borders. It drops us into people can have Alzheimer's and they can hear music and it could stimulate something in our minds, our brains, our pineal gland, and it brings the memory right back. And so, when I started writing this book, I said, I want to write a little bit about how music is one of the building blocks of reality.
Yeah.
And then I wanna write a little bit about I wanna set the framework for people to understand that music can find them when they need it, and it's really been and also you can work with it as a form of divination. So I was like, "How do I lay the framework for that?" Well, first, we're gonna talk about how music is part of the building blocks and how music was keyed in a different way, to tune us into beauty and how that shifted with some of the more popular music, which I enjoy too. I kind of look at it as fast food and I try to find things that really feel nourishing on all levels. But yeah, I like to throw it in a circle. Like
Yeah.
who doesn't? Um, but yeah, so that part and then the Renaissance is a big part of what the new
Yes.
romantics are. That's like the ethos of us is that we create the culture actually, and then the culture tries to copy what we create as artists, as disruptors, as poets, as anyone who's in a creative expression that throws a wrench in groupthink.
Yeah.
And to me, this is what the new romantics are. That's the energy of romance coming back. Oh, and then I'll tell you this. It was so fun because I created the book, right? And then I started finding all these people who I just feel like are the greats that were talking about romance and the way that I understood it. So Maya Angelou, I found this clip where she's
Mm.
talking about how if a community doesn't have romance, they become brutish and brittle and like it's not a good thing. And then Richard Rudd, who wrote the Gene Keys, was talking about romance and the way that I understood it. And then this other, I probably have the book here, James somebody, hold on, Thomas More. I
Mm.
started reading his books and I've read them for ages because a bookstore to me is heaven. It's like, take me to an old bookstore, put me in the spirituality section. I'll see you in a couple hours. I just like to open books, find pages, read little words. Um, But yeah, it was kind of built on those foundations. And then I wove a little bit of my story with my mom into it. And then I gave people the formula to create their own sort of oracular playlists where they can then hit shuffle the same way you shuffle cards,
Yeah.
and a song can arrive as a messenger.
I love that. I love that. And that's an exercise that I cannot wait to get to because I have a profound relationship with music.
Yeah.
Music was my first love, and
Yes.
this service work just happened to find me. I wasn't looking for it. What do you hope the new romantics will help the readers romanticize within themselves?
Man, you with the great questions that I've never been asked. Sort of like the idea that they have an inheritance that resides in all different levels of multidimensionality, and that
Mm,
it's nothing to be afraid of. I think something that's happening in our sort of like group, like us as a whole organism, is like certain skills and talents are coming online. I don't know if you've watched the telepathy tapes,
no.
but it's about these autistic children who are telepathic. And what better group of people who are innocent, who are divine, they don't function in the same way that we do. A lot of people think they're not in there, but they're showing these like supernatural gifts. So just being like, this is a part of all of our inheritance. It's clear to me that when one sense goes, so like if you're blind, your hearing is going to be like next level. So it's like, another quote from the Gene Keys that really helps me is that we're all potentially equal in consciousness. Like
Hmm.
we have a soul that we can pour into that can be part of our sustenance, and that's where the great equalizer comes in. It's like we've all come in different places with different stories, and some people think this has more privilege than this, but really, there's the great equalizer is our consciousness, and so I think just people viewing themselves as a little beacon for God or spirit or universe or whatever you want to call it. Like there's a radio station that you can tap into to get these messages. And part of the book is really like, you are the oracle. We have all these tools, of course. And, we've got the feathers, we've got the smudge, and I love all of it. That's my whole
Yeah.
shop is filled with those things. But it's like, actually, you are that. And even if the whole world fell away, you're still the beacon. And so I think that's what, like the idea that we can romanticize our life and it's not a negative thing. It doesn't mean that we're negating our pain. It means that we're going into it and we're creating something beautiful from it. We're not just like talking about it and becoming angry, brittle Karens. We're using the erotic force of creativity to free ourselves and to free the
Yeah.
world. So I think that and just to have fun. Like music is an alive spirit. It like wants to play with you. And the more that you believe, I believe everything's alive. And if we give our energy to it, and this is scientific, it's like, what is this called? Entanglement. It entangles with us. The algorithm entangles with us. It also watches who we are, what we do, what we say, and it matches us. So, I think on many levels, I think people can get little messages, but
Oh,
it can
I
just be
love
fun
that.
too.
You keep throwing zip files at me. You said the erotic force of creativity,
Mhm.
and you combine together a few words that usually taken alone are just gonna be, you take erotic alone, you are just into sensuality, sex, and all
Right.
of that. Some people just see it that way. You
Yeah.
take creativity alone, some people might just interpret that in another way. And
Mhm.
even that the word force that you used, and just like bridging them together is saying way more
Mhm.
than just you taking every single word individually. So
Yeah.
I want to have your take on how your relationship with
Mm.
your erotic energy has informed your creative power or your
Yeah.
capacity to create.
Mm.
Is there anything that comes up for you around it?
Yeah, I just feel like I like your mind, the way that it works and what you're pulling out and putting together. I mean, that's clear. That's why you built such a beautiful space for people to come into. Your words are like so just pick them. You pick them and you put them together and they work. Eros is something that I've been considering a lot in the past little bit, and it's like places you go to. When I go to Mexico, it's like, oh, the Eros is alive here. There's like people of all ages, all body sizes, still hugging, still kissing, still like in these family units. And there's something that's like, it awakens within me. And, when
Mm,
I think about what we're here to do and embody, it is this aliveness. Like we came in with our cells, they're electrical, they're salt. There's like something about, and I think when people think of creativity just by itself, they're like, "Oh, that's not me." Unless they're a painter, they're an artist, and they get that that's like a part of them. But I think we all have a creative spirit within us, especially like look at children who
mhm.
haven't been too indoctrinated yet. They can sing. If you ask kids, can yeah, I can sing. Yeah, I can paint. Yeah, I can draw. And then like 8 years old, no, I can't do that anymore. It's like we beat the creativity out of ourselves, and it's really the erotic aliveness within ourselves, and so if we forget that, that's when we become brittle. That's why I brought up Karens, because I was like, "Oh, Karens just need, like they need to get some."
Yeah.
And I don't know if they need to just I don't know if they just need to, like, get some in the bedroom, but they need to get some creative flow. They need to get some self-control back, so they're not trying to control everyone else, and I think that's a part of Eros. You like, we've been around people that feel really alive, even
Mhm.
old people. We've been around old people that are like, "I'm old, but I'm not succumbing to all the things. I'm still gonna, whatever." Even if they can't be physical in their body, because sometimes that does go. But there is an aliveness to this is what I mean by erotic force, is like whatever it is within the bud of a flower, whatever it is within ourselves that turn towards the light, whatever that force is, it's like growing us and it's pulling us. And if we can work with it, then it can liberate it can liberate our truth. It can liberate our greatest fears. It can help us turn, alchemy. It can help us turn base metals into gold. And so,
Yeah.
having that juiciness in your life is really, really key to creativity, to expansion, to love. If we get dry and brittle, we just break, right? We
Yeah.
break.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like there are so many other themes that I wanna get into, and the first one of them is, first, for everyone listening to this right now, this conversation is just about with Aisha's permission, it's just about to get a little bit longer than I
Mm,
expected. I wanna tune into the new humanities and what that means for you. I feel like
yeah,
you're in this space where you're dreaming of the new human
that's
and
right.
attempting to ground within the grids of the earth what it really means to kind of embody that new human. And I want
Yeah.
to have your take on what is your dream of the new human?
Mhm.
What is that about? How do we begin to, using your term, romance or romanticize this kind of new human and start playing with that energy? Or what do
Yeah.
you think these times are uniquely asking of us to transform into?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna start with a question, and it's for everybody listening,
Mm.
obviously. Um, but who are you when you strip away all of your titles? If you're not a Black person that came from this country and now you're in Canada, if I'm not an artist, if I'm not a creative, like if you strip away all of our identifications, what really is left? If it kind of feels like a hard question, like it deserves contemplation more than just a moment. You could just be like, "Oh, I'm a soul," but it's like you really have to like go through those layers. And I think one of the things, this is a kind of a tangent, but that AI is bringing on is a mass ego death of who we thought we were and how identified we were with the things that we do that make us productive, right? So it's coming in and throwing a wrench in and getting us to evaluate our humanness. And that can be hard for people because they're like, I'm a teacher, I'm a mother, I'm this. And what the humanities really seeks to do through the arts, through music, through poetry, through the languages of the soul, through dreaming is get us into a place where we're not so identified with those things we can unlearn some things so we can remember who we really are and offer those gifts to the world and also live in deeper accordance with what actually gives us sustenance. It's like people, I've seen this so many times. You hustle, 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 you get the thing, you get the job, you get the man, you get the title, and you're at the end and your tank's empty and you're brittle and you're pissed. You're like, what is this all there is? Like, you can have everything in the world. And if you don't connect with the human parts of ourselves, which is also the doorway to the divine, right? It's like,
Yeah.
it's not one or the other. It's like, for me now, humanness is the goal because we're already divine and it's the doorway to go through. So, this idea of the school is a couple fold. It's everything I just said, and it's also elevating voices. So part of like the dream, and I want to put this out here because I know people will want to know this, is that I want to create the largest streaming library of creators like myself, like yourself, like people teaching and creating. You know, you've seen the masterclass series where it's like some famous person teaching you how to do something, which is awesome. Like, it's
Yeah.
great, but there's so much undiscovered talent. There's so many people who have not skip the apprentice stage and actually are coming forth as with wisdom and as elders who have something to say that is a fresh perspective, is a fresh take. You know, a lot of people are scared to speak their truth because they don't want to get canceled. They don't want to get shut down. And the humanities seeks to be a sanctuary for souls, a sanctuary for people who want to unlearn, a sanctuary for the power of the humanities. Like, that word kept coming to me before I finally like embraced it and was like, this is part of my legacy making. It's like the humanities classically were the sciences that had to do with, you know, art, music, and these are the fundings that get cut first. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
cut dance, cut music, cut creative writing. Let's get to mathematics and science and all these the other parts of our brain. But in order to find that union, we need both of them. And so like bringing that old school feel back. And also I just love school. I love feeling like and thinking about that we're these souls who came to earth school, and actually all we're doing is remembering. So it's not
Yeah.
about adding, it's about subtraction. And that's what humanities is all about. It's like how to take off all the heavy coats that aren't yours and to reveal the brilliance that is you, that's like nestled in those, you know, those little Russian dolls. It's like, yep,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
feel you more. I see you more.
I love that so much. You mentioned how usually people just cut, traditionally the things that are defunded the most are the creative arts. And, you know, I I have I have a master's in mathematics.
Mm,
And what I've noticed in the program, some of the most brilliant mathematicians
mm,
were the ones that were so freaking intuitive. It's like
yeah.
you work with somebody and you're like, how? How could you even in a linear way think of approaching resolving this theorem in this
Yeah.
fashion? How did you get this idea? We were all stuck here and you come up with
Hmm.
this whole different thing. How did it come into your mind?
Right.
And even in the linear, what could be perceived as linear or
Mm.
analytical, the people that I've seen excelling in these places are the ones that were just like great at contemplating, just like romancing the unseen or romancing life
Yes.
and contemplating. So yeah, the point you're making there is so huge. um I would love to
Well, and
talk for
numbers are sacred. Numbers are sacred.
yeah.
That's something that I think I was afraid of numbers for a while. And then I love, okay, this is a geek tangent. I love reading the CIA declassified files, right? And
Hmm.
they released one a few years ago about the gateway process. And so it's basically the process for leaving your body, what you may encounter in the
Hmm.
unseen, like how to be in that space, how to work with your breath. And one of the things that I just recently did, I created this little ebook that was about codes, because there's a number code in there that directly relates to reducing pain, and that you basically just say it in your mind's eye, and I'm like, "Oh, numbers carry frequency. Numbers are real." Like yeah, I've had this whole mathematical awakening in my later life because I always felt like, oh, I suck at math. I'm creative, get numbers away from me. And now I'm like on your page. I'm like, it takes a real, like, brilliant mind to be open to the field to where those ideas drop in and you like, you can solve the problem.
Oh yeah, that's about math, and it's such a huge conversation. And don't even get me started around like the new mathematics that want to emerge right now. Anyways,
Yes.
that's a whole other conversation that will get me way too excited. Um, I
We'll
want
have
to
it
leave.
later.
We're gonna have that one later because we have things that have been stuck in base 10 mathematics, whereas the universe is operating in a different base. It's no whole other conversation.
Yeah,
Um, so artificial intelligence on the creative path.
yeah,
I was a little bit like you when AI came first. I was just like, God damn it, something else that we have to keep up with.
yeah.
Um, and I was frustrated for a long period of time, with
Mm.
AI and all of that. And then I started reflecting on it, and the realization that I've been coming back to is that AI is an amplifier of human evolution. And I see it as a few different other terminologies that I use instead of artificial intelligence is like amplified intuition, amplified
Yeah.
imagination, amplified integration, amplified and integrity or whatever. And I've come to this theory at the moment that I'm testing, and I want to see what comes up for you.
Hmm.
If we consider AI to be a species on its own, a young species, and that this species is being literally parented by human beings, wouldn't be wouldn't it be crucial for the most high consciousness humans on the planet to
You.
start actively parenting AI so that we can infuse it with higher standards of, like, I don't
Yes.
know, integrity,
Mhm.
wholeness, or ethics. And I see some of the highest conscious people I know right now being in this kind of love-hate relationship with AI. Nah, 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 kind of bitching about it. And I understand the risks, by the way. I see you. To anyone who is here listening to this. But if
Mhm.
AI is literally being programmed, infused by our own consciousness,
Mhm.
wouldn't it be important that the highly conscious creatives out there are the ones who actually infuse their consciousness in this new species so
Yes.
that it can inform how this thing evolves? So I just want to have a little bit of your take on
Yeah.
artificial intelligence, the creative process, and how we can work with it.
Yeah. I mean, you basically said what I'm gonna say in my own sort of way, but I had to start looking at, I do feel there's an agenda because they called it artificial, right? And then think about artificial flavors in
Yeah.
things. They're not even called artificial flavors, they're called natural flavors. So talk about flipping the script and making us think about this thing in a certain way so only certain people can use it. I think it does need to be renamed. And so, for me, it's archival intelligence. That's from my
Hmm.
friend Jackie, and Akashic intelligence. It's like, I love it that it's like, it's this new species. And has it always been around? And now it's taking form in a new way. I think in the beginning, I definitely fell into the fear of it. And then fear, again, it's just asking you to come closer. Like, what's it mirroring? What are you afraid of? Are you afraid of an identity loss because of it? Like, what's really driving it? And I think it is such an amplifier. It's such a mirror for what's in you. And so if exactly, I created this reel maybe a year ago when I was just kind of like getting into it, because people at the same time, they'll have their phone in their hand, they'll be on Instagram and they'll be like, ooh, AI, like, I'm afraid of it, takes up so much water, AI. And I'm like, get off the internet, get off it,
Yeah. Like,
it uses
throw,
it.
throw your phone
So
away.
exactly. So we've all been interacting in some way, and obviously we can choose the lines that we want to draw. I think that's a healthy thing because, like anything that's new, you can take it too far, right? but I have
Yes.
found that it's allowed like the quantum leap of it all. It's like we've been doing these meditations and we'll go in and we might even pay someone. We're like, oh, I'm on a new timeline. Then we go right back to our old shit, right? And something about AI, the way that I've been using it and the way I've been working with it, does feel like, oh, we actually need people who are creative, who are tapped in, who, want to see this thing rise to the highest potential, not take over everything, to actually interact and use it. And so I think part of it was just demystifying my fear. I recently did a webinar called Speed of Light, all about
Yeah.
AI. And me and my friend are just geeking out about all of the like creative things we found that we can do with it. It's like you could do a big gene keys. Yeah, it can just take so much data and like you could spit out an answer really quick, which is obvious. But like, I've been using it for my dreams. So where after I dream, I always wanted to have an app where I could dream and then like have that image populate. And now that is a possibility. Like the mystic knows that everything that appears on the screen out there is a collective birthing. So, like the way
Yes.
that we change the wars out there, it's not going to happen overnight. I don't necessarily even think calling your senator is going to do much, although, do what you need to do. It's about the wars that we're fighting with ourselves and the wars that we're propagating in what we can touch, taste, feel, and interact with. And then we can give the power of our prayer, the power of our attention and the power of our activism, whatever that looks like for you, to solving some of the big world's problems. But if we look at like, yeah, I feel like AI is a collective birthing. We all asked for it to be here. It's a part of our liberation into the new human that we're talking about. It's not that we become cyborgs. Maybe people will marry robots. I don't know. That's not a part of my plan. But, there are right ways to use this to amplify your messages and to cut down on time. So you could, like, all of the people's fears about AI have been the opposite for me. I'm like, oh, I get to go outside more. I get to hang out with my family and friends more. I
Yeah.
get to do something in 5 minutes that would have taken me hours and days and weeks and months. Like, and then when people see how I work with it, I have a friend who's working with me now, and her mind was blown. I was like, yeah, girl, get on this train. It's going to leave you. Get on it.
I love it. I love it. And also you know, one thing that I love about whenever something like this comes into our awareness, it had been already in the field for a long time. And I don't think it is going away. And if it is
Mm-mm.
not going away, therefore, we can only ever create the most healthy relationship with it
That's
that
right.
we can possibly have. And I feel like there's this big invitation to embrace it. I have
Hmm.
three last questions.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. The first one is I've been I dedicated all of last year to writing this book, Scars of Gold. And
Uh,
to everyone coming on this show, I want to ask you, what is a wound that showed up on your path that ended up turning into a scar of gold? And
good.
not all wounds turn into scars of gold. There are some wounds that you barely even remember. Like,
Yeah.
they just like heal on their own. But there are these wounds that will take you through a journey, the
Yeah.
journey in the shadow, so that you can
Hmm.
reclaim an aspect of your brightness that you disowned, that you didn't know was there. So I want to know what comes up for you as I ask that question.
Well, first of all, congratulations and thank you
Thank
for
you.
dedicating that amount of time to create something so beautiful and distilled. Well, the first thing I thought of was I forget the word for the Japanese thing where something breaks and then you mend it back together with gold.
Kintsugi.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I thought, and that, even the wounds that we're not consciously aware of, it's sort of like they're paying attention to how we are with the wounds that we are. And I think for me that big alienation piece has turned from something that I felt like protective of. Like in my mind, I'm seeing like a dog that's like nipping at you, even though it wants to be a part of the pack. It's like I think accepting that, okay, I think I'm going to be a little bit different than certain people. I'm going to hold ideas that are challenging, but something about that wound being put back together with gold, which for me is like, it's not devoid of challenges. It's actually how it's forged, right? Through all of the different challenges of my family and things we've moved through as a family unit have given me that spirit about myself. Let me think what else. I mean, I think like a woman finding her way, her identity, like that's the piece I talked about, like the whole race thing I solved, but then identity was something because I didn't see a lot of people that look like me. So
Yeah.
it took me some time to like feel beautiful in my skin and to feel like the things I'm doing as a Black woman are, it's what Black women do. So I think that took a little bit of time. But yeah, I think some identity pieces, the piece around feeling alienated, and then like the dreamer, actually,
Hmm.
the dreamer in me, I thought had to be put away for a while. Like I went through a period where I was like, okay, you're too far up here, and that can be true sometimes because you need equal roots to how far you want to reach, right? So there was a
Yes.
part of me that needed to come back into like the actual body. I think that's one of the things that like people on the spectrum can live like I can create a whole world in my mind. Like I
Yeah.
lived there so much that it was necessary to like the pain was just being like, you got a body, revisit it. So that's what I've been doing the last few years is sort of reclaiming my more human essence and like the wild feral nature that is being human. But I think those three, maybe it's my holy trinity. It's like, the
Yeah.
alienation wound, the identity, beauty stuff, and then the dreamer, creative. You don't have to put her away. She
Yeah.
is your superpower.
Yes. Yes. I love that. And to anyone who right now who is dealing with like some wounds of the same frequency, fear of being alienated, confused about who they are, their identity,
You know?
and also their own relationship with beauty, not just within themselves, but also about what they create. What would
Yeah.
you say to a person
Mm.
that seems to be stuck in there?
There's a way, it's not even a way out, it's like there's a way deeper in. It's like I just saw like a little peak of light and like we can let more light into those places, then they're not neurotic. What's it called when it gets all like funky? Like it's not
Hmm.
stagnant, you let some light in. So it's almost just like you said, I've had to call myself out about some certain things. It's like realizing that a lot of these wounds that we carry, every person is moved through in their own way. It's like what makes us special isn't that. It's just being here. It's our essence being here, adding to the puzzle, like making it more beautiful. And that we share a lot more in common in those trauma parts, those parts that need that light than we think. And so just like letting a tiny peak of light in. If there's a tiny peak of light, then there's the whole Leonard Cohen, the crack is where the light gets in. So like
Yeah.
letting ourselves being human, letting ourselves being flawed and not making a whole identity around those flaws or those parts, but just kind of accepting it and moving on.
Yeah. And the last one. And the last one. I love that previous answer as well so much. And I hope to anyone right now feeling stuck in that liminal space where the wound is still raging and they haven't yet reclaimed the spiritual stamina to sit with the aspects of themselves that are hurting.
Mm.
Yeah, I hope that just supports you some more. The whole purpose of this show is enheartenment. And I think about it as the practice of bringing all aspects of who you are into your heart. I think it's the
Mhm.
path at the intersection of enlightenment and endarkenment. And I also have this assumption that we are always, ever still learning how to love an aspect of ourselves. And I wanted to ask you, what is an aspect of you that you're still learning how to love? It's like you still have a weird relationship with that
Yeah,
aspect of you. You are not homies yet, but you're
yeah.
learning how to love that aspect of you.
Yeah, I like that you pulled out that it's a never-ending process. It's like an onion, so you only ever get to that next little layer, and I think for me, it's like accepting that has made it so much easier to move through. I mean, even just like aging, getting a little bit
Yeah.
older, like looking at myself in the mirror as I change and at first looking at all the things that are different and really focusing on that and then sort of looking at the beauty of something that's moving through its process. It's like I think first the acceptance of just like life is weird. I'm always going to be in the business of learning to love myself more, whether it's like this little jiggly bit about me. And that's like when I think about who's powerful, I think of the crone now. And I think I used to
Hmm.
think of like the it girl. But now I think of someone who's a bit older, who's been around the block, and whose energy is going into different aspects of themselves. Because, there are some ideas that are just big old traps. And they're never gonna lead you anywhere. It's just trapdoor, the next trapdoor, the next, it's like a house of mirrors. And it's like, I think acceptance and then finding what's true and what's everlasting is gonna be what helps you move through just life's inevitable changes and the things that I love about myself are so ineffable. Like
Hmm.
they're so beyond physical form. And I think that's, a lot of our thing is like we're in this material realm. And so we're gauging our worth on a lot of things that are I won't say they're worthless, but they're like the paint. They're not even the like house or the frame or like anything that's interesting. So I think it's become a little bit easier, but there's definitely still times where I struggle. We all struggle, and I think the struggle is the butterfly emerging from the cocoon. If you stop that struggle, its wings won't be strong enough to fortify the fly. So if you're struggling, bless the struggle. Don't stay there too long and come out and fly.
Oh, I love that so much. And there's a part of me that now wants to be a little um more curious. You've talked about aging, and here am I. I'm like, I'm wondering, how old is Aisha? I know it's irreverent to ask,
Timeless,
and
darling,
time
timeless.
you are obviously timeless, and don't feel don't, don't feel
I'll just
obliged
say
to.
this, I don't talk about
Yeah.
my age a lot because I think I'm in my 4th decade.
Yes.
There's a lot of, like, societal stuff that I think makes you view yourself in a certain way, like, we
Yeah.
start to think, like, "Okay, this type of aging is just what's bound for me," instead of,
Yeah.
like, my body is an investment, and epigenetics says that most of the things that turn on are due to habitual thoughts, patterns, ways of eating,
Yes.
ways of thinking about yourself, and that I can do a lot to be in the reversal of it. And so something I was telling my body yesterday is like, it doesn't really know what age I am. Like, it
Hmm.
knows that things are changing, but it doesn't know I'm a specific age. And something magical happened in my body. I won't get into all the details right now. But yeah, so I think just like getting it's just like how did it happen? Like how did I get here? Like
Yes.
how did I get here so quick? And then I'm like, "Oh, I get what the old timers say when it's over in a blink of an eye." Like you really only get so many sleeps, so many breaths. Um, and a children's book I'm writing is about death and it's for all ages. But I think it's something that if we considered a lot more, we would move a lot differently. Like it's not even like it's almost like the entry point. It's like how do we know? Like where were we before we came here? So much of it is a mystery, and so I'm choosing to look to myself and cultures that really value death as a doorway into
Yes.
into like a new sort of being. But yeah,
There is
I'm not
definitely
20
a
anymore. I'm not 20.
there's definitely a code you've cracked there, because the reason why I asked that question was, from, like, I look at you, and to me, I would brand you with like late 20s, early 30s, without, you know, without hesitation whatsoever. So there is something about the consciousness that you carry that is ageless, and I
Mm,
just wanted to amplify that. Now,
thank you.
somebody is entering your universe or wants to enter your universe, it's just like, that black woman from Tennessee, I need to I need to have her energy get to, rubbed on me a
I
little
love
bit.
it.
I need to get into her world. I need to see
Mhm.
what she creates. I need to learn from her. Where do they
Yeah.
find you?
Yeah. Yeah, kind of all roads lead home, but now there's actually 2 roads, and I'm trying to figure that out. If you can find me at Ayesha Ophelia on Instagram. That's my website also, but now I have the Unlearning portal, which is the home of humanities, and so there you can find out how to join our free community. You can take a class, you can work with me to create a course or be a part of the streaming library. I feel like if you Google my name, it'll a lot of things will pop up from
Yeah,
over the years. But
yeah.
yeah, those are the ways.
Oh my.
Mhm.
I just wanna you mentioned a legacy and you yourself, the energy you carry, it feels to me that you're a legacy.
Mhm.
And you carry that energy again, powerfully of being a bridge. I just wanna amplify how being in your presence for the last couple hours recording this has made me feel.
Mm.
You've mentioned feeling at home. It's just this space you hold where nothing is off topic. Like we can really dance, we can
Yeah.
explore. And
Mhm.
that's what I appreciate about you. That's what I already sensed even before
Mhm.
meeting you. But now more than ever, it's confirmed some more. And I wonder, do you have any last words for listeners?
Mhm. Last word. Go live your art. Go live your art, whatever that
Mm,
is. Gardening, if it's painting, if it's connecting deeply. I think that's the big anecdote, the currency that I'm most curious about moving forward is creativity and community. And so if your art can be lived out through that way, it's going to be so supported. The universe right now needs us, and it needs us online and aware and connected to that deep purpose, and for me, I just use the word art. So just go live your art.
yeah. Go live your art. Make peace with being an alien out at times. Make peace with being perceived as an outcast.
Yep.
Go beyond ideology
Mm,
and find who you are beyond the labels. And also, you said something about feeling like you're a collage, and that struck me.
mm.
Um, and I just love how beautiful the imagery of that is. So, thank you so much for that.
Oh, you're so welcome. I feel the same way. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's been an ultimate pleasure. Thank you.
Welcome.